So as everybody knows, Davis is one of the first bike-friendly cities and the first platinum-level bike city. They're currently working on Diamond. The university is also a platinum-level bike-friendly city. You're reminded of this. There you go. But before I talk about that, I wanted to show you a couple of quick pictures of bike boulevards. If anybody's not familiar with those, these are from our visit to Berkeley. Basically, just you make a street one way out. So people can come in from other directions, but it basically cuts the temptation to do commuting through neighborhoods. So they're called bike boulevards. Some places call them neighborhood greenways. They really basically turn your street into a neighborhood street. And that's personally what I like to call about it. Comes in various flavors. You can do it in a lot of ways. The big thing is that here, this four-way intersection is blocked from entry. So it's got 3 ways in and 4 ways out. So one direction is limited. And there are various labels that are associated with it. Many of them end in some kind of a cul-de-sac. Some of them are created. The other thing that's talked about in the traffic calming in Berkeley, the two things they talk about are the traffic circles that they use. So here's a whole street of traffic circles to help create one-off or two-street-off thoroughfares for bicyclists and pedestrians, as opposed to the main thoroughfares. And they'll be blocked off in some fashion at one end or the other, or 2 ends out of 4, or something like that. One of the things I found, though, is in riding around Berkeley, is that I get to places and I have no idea what to do. There's no signage. And so, this Berkeley doesn't have any bike signage. It's a really good thing to have, and it's something that we've got coming. What they do have on campus, which is a silver level university, they do have much more in terms of facilities and marking than the city itself. But they've had to create walk zones because they have such congestion, and they haven't figured out how to segregate their bike traffic from their pedestrian traffic in some places. Davis, on the other hand, has solved this, and the University of California, Davis has solved this, and it's interesting to see the contrast. So let's pop into Davis real quickly. One of the things I want to use this for is to illustrate what visioning can bring you. Davis got started with its bike stuff in the 60s. They've been at this for 45, 50 years, and they've never stopped progressing in creating a bikeable, pedestrian-friendly, livable community. One of the first things you notice as you walk or bike in Davis are the underpasses and these very wide multi-use lanes. What's missing here is the number of people using them. It's usually unbelievably busy. People just go zooming by you in both directions. There's a lot of really good signage. You're very welcomed to the city of Davis and the University of California, Davis. The city and university, along with the school district and the business community, the Chamber of Commerce, completely support that joint mission of what seems to be public art, the bike and pedestrian friendly amenities, and making the community a very livable place. Now, one of the things that makes for a great community is that their campus town is also their central downtown. So the University of California, Davis is off to the southwest. Here is their campus town, downtown area, and by ordinance, they don't allow box stores, big box stores. They have one Target in the entire community. And so you have some strip malls, lots of mom and pop, and a thriving downtown. It's very, very impressive. And so by ordinance, these developments up here have been approved by the public to actually be able to construct these properties. This property has just been approved and is under construction. This property was not approved several years ago. So this property is currently being developed. Now you'll see two colors on here, a bluish green. That is their bike on-road bike infrastructure, their bike lanes. The orange is their off-road bike facilities through parks connecting up their schools. The really impressive thing about Davis is that any grade school kid, kindergarten through 6th grade, can get to their school by bike with at most 1 grade crossing. Most of the time it's 0 grade crossings. And so you've got campus, you've got, this is considered central Davis. You've got the west is separated off by this one road here. There's far north Davis up here. This elementary school just right here is called North Davis Elementary School. And it's now in basically, sort of the center of town. And the high school happens to be right here as well. So it's important to come back to that. I'll show you as I go through here. So one of the first things I did, I wanted to catch the morning student traffic coming onto campus. So I rode across town and I got to where the very first bike lanes were installed at Davis. And they now have this giant double wide bike lane that I think is also painted green. And that double wide is needed because they have a bike signal phase at this intersection. So cars go, bikes go, cars go the other direction, and pedestrians are coordinated in between there as appropriate for their direction. So the bike light is on, and that is actually a green bike signal. Bicyclists are going across, they're going onto campus, they're headed for their 9 o'clock classes. I would not want to be that person riding against the traffic. Signal comes to a stop. The bike phase comes to a stop. The bicycles start moving. This intersection also includes a Trader Joe's. And when bikes, during the bike phase, there's a no right turn only signal that comes on. It's completely engineered for bikes, pedestrians, and cars all at once. So that's one of their impressive intersections. Right down the road, though, is an intersection that doesn't quite work as well. Bikes and cars turn left at the same time. Those bicycles are turning left into a bike path that starts into campus over here. But as they're doing so, they're negotiating these interstate-style entry ramps on and off of the cross streets. And it says traffic doesn't stop here. So this is one of the things that they're going to solve as part of their diamond approach. They've got a couple of these that they need to figure out and re-engineer. The bike loop. They have the Davis bike loop. Again, we talk about doing something like that in our bike master plan. It's a wonderful thing. Okay, it's mostly off-road with quiet residential streets to connect up the rest of it. It connects up all of Davis, every section of Davis, under and over the roads that would stop most people because they provided for infrastructure like this. Okay, they have 6 pedestrian walkways. They have roundabouts. This is how they differentiate their bike traffic from their pedestrian traffic. They've created wider asphalt service and bicycle ways and sidewalks to the side where they try to segregate pedestrians. Here's another one of their stack. This is on the west side, actually. They've created a traffic circle and some infrastructure here and a stack here. But they did something sort of weird. They've got too many parking places. If you're a vehicle that wants to turn right here, you can't get to that tiny little spot that's been saved for you. It's basically useless. So you end up lining up behind the bikes. And so there's some conflict creating here in the early morning. This is another problem they want to solve. So one of the things that makes Davis Davis is that in the 60s, early 70s, the city council created development goals that require multi-use access and green space. They've connected up their parks and schools in these new areas by simply requiring it as part of the development code. So this is East Village, one of the first expansions of Davis. And the first thing you do is you enter it on a multi-use trail. You enter it on a multi-use trail, and the roads are alleyways. The fronts of the houses all are facing these multi-use trails. So it sort of flips that on its head. But not all the developments are like that. Many of them are more traditional, but they're all connected, as you will see. Here's an elementary school that I went by on this path. And in the center of this is an underpass under that road. I'll come back to that. Every one of these parks is sort of centered so that there are cul-de-sacs or entry points from the neighborhood at 3 or 4 different points. Okay, so you saw to the left, and this is the other end that we're going out. And again, you know, in another direction, you get to another pedestrian bridge. This pedestrian bridge actually, to the left up here is North Davis High School. So from far North Davis to get to the near North Davis, you cross this pedestrian bridge. And on the right is the high school. So anybody who's living in that North Davis section has quick access to the elementary school and the high school that service them. There is only one high school. Here's another interesting thing. Sometimes you're coming out of a park, but you come onto a street. It's got north-south bike lanes, but the T intersection where I'm standing and taking this picture where you might want to be going to is offset. So they've created, where the green paint is, they've created a contra flow lane to force pedestrians and hopefully bicyclists to come over to the intersection and cross as appropriate. So that's one of the things they solved. I mentioned that there's a development going up in that one corner, that in between those two currently developed things. They're trying a Dutch-style intersection here where there's protection and the signal is here, a protection for the bicyclists and the pedestrians in here. The only issue is that this is extremely wide. It takes like 22 to 25 seconds to cross that. And there's a considerable amount of controversy over whether this is going to work. I think Cynthia's, are you familiar with this intersection or the planning that went into this?
No, I'm just familiar with how California overbuilds the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what's probably going to happen is that there is a railroad track on the other side of this, and they're going to have to put an underpass to get to this neighborhood. And they're probably going to have to solve this, too. So we'll see what happens. Davis, another thing that they did in the 70s, they had some derelict houses. They had no qualms about buying one and tearing it down and creating entryway to the street and community that's on the other side of this. So they've connected up 2 neighborhoods where there's a shopping center that you can't really see. There's a street light back here, and there's a shopping center, a grocery store right behind this house on the other side of that road. So instant connectivity there. Here's another solution I thought was very good. They use paint very carefully. They use green paint and to denote the potential conflict intersections. This is a road that you can see better in this way, a Y intersection type thing. And so the bicycle lane is coming across here. The pedestrian that you saw was back here on the sidewalk. She's got a little crosswalk mark here of some kind, you know. So, and actually, if you look back at this picture, it's a yield intersection for cars going west. So, you know, she's checking for traffic. I couldn't have asked for a better shot to get a participant there. So anyway, I thought this was very interesting. Oh, the other thing they do is their outer line for their bike lane is very wide. I think I can't remember if it's 8 inches or something like that, but it's very wide. Compared to the inside lane. Then they have places where things aren't marked. This is actually a problem intersection. This is a blind corner with a bike lane coming in where people want to get to this entry to the park and elementary school that's down this way. There's a cul-de-sac behind me and a T intersection that you can't see on this island here. This is a problem they're also trying to solve. I suggested they take out this median and put in a contraflow lane there, like they've done in other places, in that other site. And for some reason, no one had thought of that, so we'll see what happens. If I gave them a little something, I'll be just shocked. Anyway, here's another solution that they've come up with. This is a raised brick intersection in front of a school, one of their newest schools. I don't have a picture of school. There's a brand new school here, elementary school to the right, and they put in this raised brick platform in front of the school. Of course, behind the school is a park and the usual amenities that you find in Davis, one of the 30 underpasses. And they build these underpasses, they don't start with a level road. They dig 2/3 of the way down and take the dirt from that and build the road up so it's got about 1% incline. So I don't really show that. Yeah, I left out that picture. There's a 1% incline leading to this bridge over this underpass, and so that's sort of how they keep from having to do quite as much engineering. The most impressive bridge is this one over Interstate 80. Cynthia's nodding her head. Have you ridden this one? Yeah. Okay, so you start on this bridge and you cross a frontage road, a pretty busy frontage road complete with bike lanes. This is in their light industrial area. There's some pretty impressive businesses there. So you cross this frontage road, you cross 2 lanes of the Union Pacific, you cross the bike path that takes you to Sacramento. That runs about 10 miles here along Interstate 80. It is actually part of the original Lincoln Highway. And if you look real closely, you can see 2 pavements down there. This older pavement they didn't pave over. It's part of the original Lincoln Highway, which goes across southern Champaign County. And then you go across 6 lanes of Interstate 80, and you're dumped into another neighborhood in South Davis. And of course, there's a park here to the right. You can move on to the road here to your right on bike lanes, or head down to the park here and cross into the park. This is part of their green loop. Of course, there are several tunnels that take you from one neighborhood to another. I think there are 2 or 3 neighborhoods. Their University Tech Park is down here. It's opposite the university on the south side of Interstate 80 here, and there is a lighted, very nice, this actually brings me back to where I started from. This is the underpass on Interstate 80 in the southwest part that brings me back to campus and where our hotel was, back to the Arboretum area. So, that's sort of we've just done the 15-mile loop, basically. The university has no qualms about putting in some protected lanes. The city has no qualms about skateboarders and rollerbladers using the bike paths to get, this actually is the first street on this guy's on his way to the center of town. So campus is, of course, crawling with bikes. About 40% of the students at any given time are on bikes. This is center of campus that's been re-engineered more recently. They've carried through with that same design on the newer part of campus. And then this is the Lincoln Highway. My last day out, I went out to it runs into a frontage road and keeps on going till you hit this 2-mile wide wetlands. And right here in the far distance there is Interstate 80. There is a 2-mile bridge on the south side of that bridge. There's a 2-mile pedestrian bike bridge attached to that so that you can keep riding into Old Sacramento. So anyway, I actually I turned around and came back after visiting that wildlife area. Everybody wonders why is Davis so different? I think I discovered the reason why here. They are sort of alien in their approach to things here compared to what we've done. But there is a bottom line here. They have partnerships across the board. They really believe in bicycling as part of the bikeable, walkable cities. They've believed that for 50 years. But they've created 2 kinds of connectivity. They have the commuter connectivity that takes you, if you're on the road, road-based connectivity, you can get from any point to any destination safely using bike lanes. They don't have problem intersections. They don't have any blockades to getting where you want to go. And then they've created the second pillar of what I think is connectivity. They've created that quiet residential street, multi-use path, green bike, that Davis bike loop so that anybody of any age can get out and be active. I saw kindergartners riding to school on their own. You know, can we imagine anybody in our town letting their kindergartner ride to school on their own? That's what they do. That's the kind of vision that we need to have. So while I have the floor, I'll just quickly, I put together some comments. I put together some comments on the bike master plan. And I can send this around electronically. I really won't go into it tonight, except to say that we have a lot of the elements of a great vision in the plan. On the back page is an article that we happened to catch while we were there from Davis on their plans to get to Diamond. On page 7, there's a box that I've bolded there that I consider the most important comment I have. Our goals, our recommendations, and whatever in the plan are buried in the text. It's back there in chapters 9, 10, 11, 12. And what I'd suggest you do is figure out what your goals are and put it up front in an executive summary and make some of those goals very bold. There are a lot of specific recommendations, you know, do X of this, do X of that, but the one that really struck me as really missing is if we want to be platinum, we need to get our bike share, our bike mode share over 10%. You know, Davis is 25 to 40%, however you measure it. Other communities are 12, 14, 15%. You know, I think our goal should be to do something like go up 1% a year for X number of years. Let's get over 10% mode share and make that a goal. And while we're doing that, we should make bicycling as safe as we possibly can. You know, the Vision Zero concept has now been included in the plan. I really like seeing that. It's a great plan, but we can make it a really, really great plan by adding a few tweaks. So I'd encourage you to take your time to look at this carefully. Don't make any rash decisions tonight. Read through it, study it. We've got plenty of time, you know, but this should be a visionary document that takes us forward many years. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, any questions? Okay, thank you very much for the photos and the feedback.
Well, thank you for all your time and letting me speak for so much here.
Okay, is there anybody else who was here for public input? Yeah, Jeff, feel free to come on up. Yeah, you can give that to Barb. Thanks.
Okay, I'm Jeff Yockey. I live at 304 West Washington Street. I'm the Executive Director of Champaign County Bikes. I serve on the Urbana Bike Master Plan Steering Committee, and once I assumed some new roles with Champaign County Bikes a few years, this was the first steering committee I was a part of. Since then, I've been on a couple more, and I've been learning more how these things operate. And I live in Urbana, so I guess I have comments at several different levels. And Charlie and I didn't confer. He's all stoked up from what he's seen in Davis. And Cynthia and I are both on the steering committee, and so we looked at this back in October and gave some input back then. I think it's sort of seasoned, and there's been multiple conversations. A bunch of us after the commission or the planning meeting, whichever group that was, went out and talked at more at length, and so I think a few things are beginning to gel. One, at 300 some odd pages, it's a big document, and I continue to learn something every time I read it or reread it, so it's an incredible resource and reference. And you know, there's lots of pages given towards wayfinding signage, and I'm so excited that all you have to do is follow that. I mean, they've thought about it, they've got the picture of the sign, you could just go and implement that. That's going to be great. And I don't know if you have it, but to make note, on page 162, I think I finally begin to figure out a little bit of of where some of the tension and dissonance is as we look at this. And overall, it's a great document. But where there are some issues, I think it begins right in this section on Section 9, where it talks about goals and objectives. And the sentence says, Champaign County RPC staff has updated and developed 6 principal goals for the Urbana Bicycle Master Plan. And what I'm hearing is sort of a discussion, in the document that has been generated by the insights and input that Gabe and Rita and their staff have put in here. And then on the other side, I think it's some of the community leaders, the city leaders, the leaders in the bike infrastructure that are asking a different set of questions. And so I think as we work through the goals, that is a key place, I think, in the goals section, out of all 350 pages, there's only 12 pages long. So I agree with Charlie's statement that all the elements are in here. I think if we relook at that and clarify the priorities and bring certain things up to light where they're visible and actionable, then the document's going to be really, really good to go. So ambitious goals, they come from really visionary and passionate people sort of knocking it out together for a while. So here's a few of my thoughts. And if you read there's just a different intensity, I think, as you go through the goals here and the goals that I would, might throw out here for ideas. One is increase bicycle mode share of all trips taken in Urbana to 20%. Okay, so we could wrestle 20%, 15, how are we going to get there? But set it up there and go after it. And how are you going to do that? Increase the convenience of using a bicycle and make it more of a headache to use a car for a short errand. So some of the cities have actually closed off outlets to certain neighborhoods and made bike exit very convenient. And if you get in a car, you have to drive your way out of the out of your subdivision or neighborhood up here to this big thoroughfare, come back over here to where people are like, it's a lot easier just to go get groceries on my bike. And so they do that, and there's lots of things happen. Champaign County Bikes just worked on a new 5-year strategic plan, and as we reviewed a few other plans from other advocacy groups, one of the concepts I picked up on that's showing up more and more is just lowering the stress of riding a bicycle. So it's a very easy indicator. Get rid of all your white knuckle situations. And not just white knuckles for me and James and Sue, but white knuckles for Jeff Marino's wife, who's ready to send her kids out the door. If there's any place that she worries about, that needs to be targeted and engineered out. So low stress routes everywhere. Increase the number of kids who bike to school. Aggressive goals, 15% in elementary school, 50% maybe in middle school, 60 in high school. 30 people riding their bike to high school maxes out the bike parking at Urbana High School. We're just not even set up to do that. But let's set a big goal, identify the biggest obstacles, create a all school, all kid bike education program. Every kid in the 4th grade gets it. And then we just start building up from there. Again, with Charlie, setting our goal to become a platinum status city in 5 years, and then to say, let's be the top city in Illinois for the next 15 years. Let's just keep going, and let's make that a goal. Just lots of good things will come as we just pick that out and keep working at it. It's going to be great when people are catching us and joining us, but let's set the pace. Here's a goal. Make our bicycle culture, infrastructure, and lifestyle a key asset for Urbana, attracting young and smart talent, new enterprises, and progressive business people. Cynthia was just saying that Peoria doesn't want to become an old industrialized, post-industrial town. So they are beefing up their bike infrastructure solely to attract millennials who will think, I want to be there. So what asset does Urbana have? Our bicycle culture, infrastructure, and lifestyle could be a key asset for us going ahead. So let's put it out there and make it remarkable when people show up. My goal number 5, let's aggressively seek solutions to the 10 biggest challenges that bicyclists face in Urbana. Our bicycle map, didn't make it up here with me, identifies 10 intersections that we have problems with in Urbana. Let's shoot that all the way to the top and say, let's address and fix all those. And so those go away. We have new high-density student complexes. we need to make sure that we've got great infrastructure to all of those, so that every student who lives north of University, every student that lives up on Cunningham in those things, their best option for a safe and quick trip to campus is by bicycle. If we do that, man, a lot of good things are going to go. Let's engage IDOT to solve our top 5 IDOT bicycle-related challenges. We have them. University from Wright to Lincoln, University from Lincoln to Vine, the University 5 Points intersection, Cunningham Avenue, and ways to get over and above I-74. So let's just put it out there. We've got to work with IDOT to solve some of our problems. Okay, so I could go on. I got a few more. Charlie mentioned Vision Zero. I think we need to make that part of our zero. Just 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries among all users of our roadways. And just say, that's woven into who we are. And because of that, we're just going to lower speeds, all throughout town. It's just going to make Urbana a better place to be. Equity is mentioned in here. I think we should even go farther to make sure that all of our neighborhoods and all of our social economic classes of residents in Urbana are well served by bikes. So that's my big one. I think there are pages of implementations and recommendations, lots of pages, and I think those are good. I think there are places where we can just work to pull out and set priorities in those. A lot of those are about wayfinding, and I think that's going to be great, but I think our higher priorities are different places. So on page 293, there's this green box with 10 items in here. They're not ranked. The numbers don't, the note in here is that the numbering does not reflect priorities, but let's go ahead and set priorities. And I would suggest that maybe a few of these would come off the list, and maybe we should put a few other ones on. I think as we do that, and your input is going to be really vital, then I think we can take the plan and the good really guts that it has and make it into a document that really is going to steer us to the place we want to go. So it's our plan. It's Urbana's plan. And so where do we want to go in Urbana? And I think we really can envision our community just being an exciting place to be in the future. And I always make this disclaimer. I'm involved with bicycles and all that, but I really care about the community. And I think bicycling is one place that contributes to a lot of solutions that we ultimately want to have with quality of life, livability, environment, safety, all those kind of things. So anyway, I don't know what the next step is for you, a study session or some back and forth, but I think the key place to go would, I think, be the beginning of Chapter 9 and redoing those 12 pages with the goals and then prioritizing the implementation and the recommendations. All right, thanks.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff?